Hello friends and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from DeeZinesByD and I have another Make the Cards Challenge post for you. So we're into challenge number 50 and this one is all about embossing folders. So we'd love to see any creations that you make with embossing folders. So go ahead and check out the site at www.makethecardschallenge.com and all of the designer work and get inspired and link up any cards that you've created using an embossing folder. Now today I'm excited to be using the Spellbinders newer embossing folders, and these embossing folders are great because they're large. They're actually 5.5 by 8.5 inches. So this means you can not only emboss your regular A2 size cards, you can emboss A7 size cards, which if you know me, I always make 5 by 7 cards. And on top of that, you can emboss slimline cards, and I think this is a big game changer. Now to make my embossing a bit interesting, I'm going to be doing a color gradient using Pigment Craft Co. inks in Aloe, Juniper, and Balsam. Now Pigment Craft Co. is a Canadian craft company and it's a little newer. It's been around for like over a year, but it is really nice and I do have to say that I like the inks. So all I'm doing is starting off with the aloe at the bottom half of the page, and I'm just gonna ink that all up. Then I'll go ahead with the juniper in the middle, and then finally with the balsam at the very top. And what I like to do to create a nice smooth blend between colors is to kind of go back with the original color. So for example, if I start with the aloe, then I do the juniper, I'll go back over the seam between the juniper and the aloe with the aloe again just to blend it all out. Now, I want to take a moment just to mention that these ink pads are really nice. They're different. They're not the fabric type ink pads. They're like a spongy type of ink pad. So what they do is they actually soak up way more ink. So your ink pads are going to last you longer. They put tons of ink. They're super absorbed. Once you get them, you'll see how inky they are. And I find this really nice for ink blending because your brush just easily picks up the ink. So now for the moment of truth. While this is still a little bit damp and not completely dry, I'm going to stick it in my embossing folder and put it through my die cutting machine. The reason for doing this is because I don't want to add water to this because it'll add splotches on that gradient that I just created. And you can see that the effect of the gradient and the embossing folder is really nice. Now I'm using some dies from Simon Says Stamp. These are the Happy Birthday brush script dies, and I'm actually going to cut out, there's two. There's a shadow and then the actual sentiment. The shadow I'll cut out of vellum, the sentiment out of some Sizzix Opulent Mirror Gold cardstock, and then I'm going to use my Artist Tack dry adhesive. This is really nice for intricate die cuts. It turns it into a sticker kind of like a Xyron machine, but without the machine. Here you just kind of stick it in between those two little sleeves. It will pick up the stickiness on the bottom half, and then you can kind of just stick it onto what you need to and burnish it to hold it in place. So now my main sentiment is all nice and completed here, and you can see that there's no mess with glue, right? With the Artist Tack adhesive. Now I'm also going to use the Simon Says Stamped Etched Laurel Leaves. These are really nice for like accent pieces. I cut this out of some Sizzix Opulent Gold Pearl cardstock, which I don't really use that often, but it's actually really nice, especially on this green background that we created. Now I'm also looking for a sub-sentiment. I've got my Spellbinders Mini Everyday Sentiments, and I will be using this set a lot going forward. It has tons of small, nice, as I said, everyday sentiments, and it has like different sizes of banner dies. So instead of having to partially die cut, which I do a lot of the time, I can kind of just switch up those banner dies and get the length that I want, which I find is very convenient. Not to mention, because it's a small strip, I can just use my small Sizzix Sidekick here to cut that rather than having to turn around and go to my big die cutting machine. Now let's go ahead and put all of this together. Now I'm using a bit of strong adhesive here just because we're using an embossed panel, so some of the areas are raised, it's not going to catch the glue as well. So I'm using both the Tombow Dot Runner and Score Pal tape. So I'm using my little trick here to stick this down and center it properly. I don't remove the backing of the double-sided adhesive because it's so strong. Once you get it on there, it's hard to move it around. But I can move it around with that Tombow mono adhesive. So that's my adhesive here to kind of position it. And then once I've got it exactly where I want it, I pull underneath that background and take off the backing of that really strong adhesive, and it's good to go. Now, this is a really cool adhesive to use. This is Cool Tack Foam, and it is actually like a foam adhesive. However, it's clear. So when you have vellum pieces like this comes in handy. And I know that it's a square. You think you might be able to see it through, but if you look, you can't really see it at all. I tried my best to put it under the spaces where there's a lot more cardstock versus vellum, so that kind of helped, but you really can't see it at all. So I'll just position the laurel leaves exactly where I want them behind the sentiment, and then I will place the sentiment right on top. So I'll have a bit of those leaves kind of sticking up, and in order to kind of get them down there, I added some foam behind them to make sure that they sit flat but still have a bit of dimension. Now for the sub sentiment, I'm using a foam strip that is actually a made at home DIY foam strip. I basically just use some craft foam and some double-sided adhesive to create that. And I just centered that in the bottom of my panel there. Now I will embellish the card with some Pink Fresh Studio Espresso Jewels. So I stuck with the Espresso Jewels because I wanted this to have more of an earthy look. We've got those greens and the golds or the beigey colors. So I thought that the brown would just enhance the look of the background here, and it would stand out on the green. So this is the final card that I have for you today. This is my inspiration for the Make the Cards Challenge number 50. Use your embossing folder. I hope that you guys have enjoyed my video. You like my card. Please give me a thumbs up if you do, and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for further videos. I will let you know that I do have some new Spellbinders releases coming soon, so stay tuned for those. And I hope that you all have a great day, and don't forget to join the challenge. Bye.